The rain hadn't stopped since the funeral, thin silver needles sliding down the windows of the house that used to feel warm and alive, but now smelled like wilted flowers and untouched casserole dishes. Ellie Whitmore stood in her mother's bedroom with a quiet resentment toward the world, staring at the perfectly made bed, hospital corners, tucked blankets, smooth pillowcases, because her mother had always believed a messy room meant a messy mind. The house was too silent, too still. Even grief felt loud in comparison. On the nightstand sat a stack of sympathy cards and a single brass key taped to a small white envelope with her name written in her mother's handwriting. Ellie's hands trembled as she peeled the tape and opened the envelope. Inside was a note written in tight, careful penmanship. If you are reading this, it means my voice is gone. But not my truth. Do not trust the will. Do not trust the lawyers. They will lie. I left something hidden where he can't touch it. Ellie read the line over and over. Her mother hadn't been married. Her father died when Ellie was 4. There was no he in their house, no man her mother ever spoke about. She flipped the note and found one last line. Look where the sun never enters the room. For a moment, Ellie almost threw it away. Grief did strange things to memory, made nonsense look meaningful. But the brass key was real, cold, engraved with a small number, 117B. A safe deposit box. A storage unit? Ellie shoved the key into her pocket just as her phone buzzed. It was her aunt, Margaret, the woman who gave a teary eulogy hours earlier about family unity and forgiving old wounds, despite the fact she hadn't spoken to Ellie's mother in 5 years. Ellie, honey, Margaret said, syrupy sweet. The lawyers need signatures from you by tomorrow morning. It concerns the will. Nothing to worry about, but it's urgent. Ellie's stomach tightened. Less than 12 hours after burial, and already paperwork and lawyers. Her mother had warned her not to trust it. She lied. She told Margaret she'd sign it in the morning, hung up, grabbed her coat and keys, and drove through the rain-slick streets until she reached the First National Bank. They were closing, the lobby nearly empty, but the banker looked at the key and said, Box 117B. That's been in use for years. As if someone had been waiting. The steel door groaned open and the box slid out. Inside was not money, jewelry, or paperwork, but a single black leather-bound journal wrapped in a plastic sleeve. Her mother's handwriting on the cover, for Ellie, read in private. Ellie took it home, sat on her mother's bed, and opened the first page. The shock was instant. The writing was not old, it was recent. Entries dated only weeks before her death. The first paragraph chilled her. If they are reading this to you, then I am already gone. They will say my heart failed. They will say it was quick. They will say it was peaceful. Do not believe them. My death was not natural. Ellie's breath vanished. Her mother had been sick for months. Heart arrhythmias, fatigue, fainting spells. Doctors couldn't stabilize her. But to say she didn't die naturally, who would want her gone? Ellie turned the page. 10 years ago, I made a mistake. I trusted people I should have feared. When Rebecca died, they told the world it was an accident. It was not. I know who pushed her. Ellie blinked hard. Rebecca Lawson, a name that still felt heavy. Her mother's closest friend, found drowned in the river behind Lawson Farm. Police called it a fall. No foul play. Everyone grieved and moved on. The next line made Ellie's spine ice cold. The same person who killed her has been trying to silence me ever since. He wants the land, the inheritance, the documents I stole from him. And when he sees this journal missing, he will come for you. Ellie's hands shook so violently, she almost dropped the book. Somewhere outside, thunder rattled the windows. She kept reading. Her mother described forged signatures on property transfers, a secret trust, a multi-million-dollar land dispute with someone close to the family, a man with influence, money, and a temper. She described meetings in secret, threats left on her porch, a car that followed her home more than once. And then, the sentence that stopped Ellie's heartbeat. You have met him. You hugged him at Christmas. He whispered at my funeral. He stood over my grave today and pretended to mourn. Ellie slammed the journal shut, pulse roaring in her ears. At the funeral, only a dozen people attended, mostly relatives and neighbors. Which one of them? The banker? The family lawyer? Her uncle? Pastor Gaines? They all shook her hand. They all said they were sorry. A sudden loud knock at the front door made Ellie flinch. It was late, almost 11 p.m., wind and rain howling. She crept downstairs, peered through the side window. A figure stood on the porch, umbrella dripping, face hidden in shadow. Then a voice, calm, male, familiar. "Ellie? I saw your car at the bank. We should talk." Her heart hammered as she recognized him. One of the men from the funeral. And in his hand, not flowers, not food, but an official-looking envelope stamped with her mother's name. Ellie backed away from the door, grabbed the journal, and ran upstairs, heart thundering. She didn't know what scared her more, the truth in the pages, or the man outside who already knew she had it. Ellie crouched by her bedroom window, watching the man on the porch tilt his head up, as if he sensed her eyes on him through the rain-blurred glass, and every instinct in her body screamed to stay hidden. He knocked again, slower this time, the sound too confident to be harmless, then slid the envelope into the mail slot before stepping back to his car. The taillights disappeared down the street, leaving Ellie alone with the buzzing silence of a house that no longer felt like hers. Her hands shook as she picked up the envelope. Inside was a stack of legal documents bearing her mother's signature. Except every instinct told Ellie the handwriting was wrong. A note was clipped to the top. "We need to meet before the estate review tomorrow. Destroy nothing. Daniel Graves." Graves. The name echoed in her head like a warning bell. Attorney for the family. Trusted friend. The same man who did a heartfelt, teary speech at the funeral. The same man her mother wrote about. He was there, whispering condolences over the casket. Ellie tore the papers in half and threw them into the fireplace, then grabbed the journal and shoved it into her backpack. She didn't know where she was going, only that she couldn't stay. The storm made the roads slick and visibility low, but she drove anyway, scraping tears from her cheeks with the back of her sleeve, breathing in jagged shivers. She headed toward the only person she trusted, her mother's closest neighbor, Mrs. Carmichael, an elderly woman who had known Ellie since childhood. Her house was dark at first glance, but lights flicked on when Ellie knocked. "Honey, come in," the old woman whispered, pulling her inside and locking the door behind her. She looked exhausted, as if she hadn't slept in days. "I saw the car parked outside your house. I thought about calling you, but..." She hesitated, glanced out the window. Men like him don't like questions. Ellie's pulse spiked. "So you know?" The old woman nodded slowly and led Ellie to the kitchen, where a half-finished cup of tea sat shaking in her wrinkled hands. "Your mother wasn't paranoid, dear. She was scared, and she had reasons." Ellie pulled the journal from her bag, flipping to the page with Rebecca Lawson's name. Mrs. Carmichael's eyes filled with tears. "That girl didn't fall," she whispered. "Your mother saw what happened. She saw him push her. But the sheriff buried the case. Money keeps terrible things quiet." The room blurred as Ellie tried to swallow the horror. "Why didn't she tell me?" The old woman took a long breath. "Because she was trying to keep you alive. The minute she spoke out, you would have been next." Thunder cracked outside, and the lights flickered. Ellie checked her phone. 3 missed calls from a blocked number. Then another call came in. Same blocked number. She shut the phone off, pulse hammering in her throat. "I have to prove what she wrote," Ellie whispered. "I need someone who'll listen." Mrs. Carmichael looked terrified, but she nodded toward the front hallway. "Take the basement door. Don't leave through the front. If someone followed you, they're watching." Ellie slipped out the back, rainwater soaking her hair and clothes, and ran to her car. She drove to the sheriff's station, small, brick, quiet at night. But as soon as she stepped inside, her heart dropped. Daniel Graves was sitting at the front counter, leaning over paperwork with the sheriff, both of them deep in conversation. The sheriff looked up, eyes narrowing with false warmth. "Ellie, rough night." Graves turned slowly, smiling with rehearsed sympathy. "I was just telling Sheriff Burke that you and I need to sign some documents tomorrow. Your mother trusted me with everything." Ellie forced herself not to tremble. She needed to leave. Now? "Sure," she breathed, backing toward the door. "Tomorrow." She walked out calmly, but the moment she reached her car, she broke into a sprint. She didn't stop until she was halfway across town, pulling into the deserted parking lot of the old diner. She killed the engine, chest heaving, and opened the journal again. Her mother had left dates, names, bank records, photocopies of land deeds, everything manually glued into the pages. There were even photos, a document Graves had altered, side by side with the original. "Proof. Real proof," Ellie whispered. "This is enough to bury him." and immediately realized the second half of the thought. Unless he buries me first. She remembered another name, Detective Granger, a retired officer her mother once trusted. If anyone would listen, he might. Ellie found his address in the journal, started the car, and headed toward the edge of town. Lights blurred past her, adrenaline buzzing under her skin. She felt watched, hunted, like every passing car was a threat. When she pulled up to Granger's small farmhouse, she saw only darkness, no lights, no movement. She knocked on the door, nothing. Knocked again, louder. Detective Granger, please. She tried the handle. Unlocked. She stepped inside, calling his name, and then froze. The living room was a mess. Chairs overturned, papers scattered, a coffee mug broken on the floor. And on the table, fresh muddy footprints leading toward the back door. Someone had been here very recently. Ellie's voice trembled. Hello. She moved toward the kitchen and stopped dead. The back door stood open, blowing wet air into the house. And on the kitchen counter lay Granger's badge and a handgun, as if he left in a hurry or was taken. The journal felt heavy in Ellie's hands, like a countdown ticking louder and louder. Someone was clearing loose ends, one by one. And now they knew she had the only copy of the truth. She grabbed the gun, stepped out into the rain, and realized the horrible, undeniable truth. There was no turning back. Ellie drove until the road narrowed to gravel, until the town lights disappeared in the distance, and the only sounds were the wipers smearing rain across the windshield and her own heartbeat echoing in her head. The journal sat open on the passenger seat, pages fluttering in the wind that slipped through a cracked window, revealing words that no daughter should ever have to read. Plans, warnings, and her mother's last desperate sentences written as if she knew she was being hunted. At the bottom of one page, beneath Rebecca Lawson's name, her mother had scribbled, "If something happens to me, find Thomas." Ellie frowned. Thomas who? The next few pages had been ripped out, leaving only ragged edges. She slowed down when she noticed a flicker of light ahead, a gas station still open despite the storm. She pulled in, needing a moment to think, to breathe, but as she stepped out, a man in a raincoat turned sharply from the payphone and dropped his cigarette when he saw her. Ellie Lawson? His tone wasn't threatening, but something about his voice made her tense. Who's asking? The man raised his hand slightly. Name's Thomas Crane. I was a reporter. Your mother trusted me once. Her pulse jumped. My mother's journal said to find you. He nodded, eyes glancing over her shoulder to the road. Then we don't have much time. Graves knows you have it. He motioned toward his truck, a dented old Ford. We can't talk here. Ellie hesitated only a second before sliding into the passenger seat. Inside, the air smelled of coffee and paper. Thomas handed her a folded sheet, an old photograph showing her mother, Rebecca Lawson, and a younger Daniel Graves standing together in front of a construction site. That was 22 years ago, Thomas said. They were supposed to develop that land for low-income housing. Instead, the funds vanished, Rebecca started asking questions, and a month later she was dead. Ellie traced her mother's face with trembling fingers. And you think Graves? I don't think, he interrupted quietly. I know. Your mom gathered evidence, but she was scared. When she realized someone had broken into her office, she gave me copies of everything and told me to disappear. A week later, she stopped returning my calls. He took out a flash drive. This has everything I have. Old financials, phone logs, even the sheriff's bank transfers. Ellie stared at it, barely breathing. Why now? Why find me? Thomas's expression darkened. Because you're the only one left who can finish what she started. And because I think Graves killed Granger tonight. The words hit like a slap. How do you? I was following him, Thomas said. Saw two cars outside Granger's house. One of them was Graves. I heard shouting, then nothing. When I got close, I saw them loading something into the trunk. Ellie gripped the edge of her seat, her knuckles white. So what do we do? Thomas started the engine. We go public. There's a radio station in Ashford that still takes anonymous exposés. But if we show up unprepared, they'll trace us in minutes. He pulled onto the highway. We'll need proof. Physical, verifiable proof. Ellie opened the journal again. One entry mentioned a safe deposit box at First Federal Bank. Mom said she kept the originals there. Thomas nodded. Then that's where we go. The drive was long and tense, the rain finally thinning into mist. They arrived at dawn, the streets eerily quiet. Ellie wore her hood up as they slipped through the back of the small-town bank and waited until the clerk recognized her mother's name. Rebecca Lawson? The woman asked, typing nervously. You're her daughter? Ellie nodded. We just need to access her box. There should be paperwork authorizing me. The clerk frowned. Actually, it was already accessed 2 days ago. Ellie's stomach turned. By who? A Mr. Graves, the woman said without looking up. Said he was acting under legal authority. Ellie's voice trembled. He wasn't. The clerk looked confused, but Thomas tugged Ellie's sleeve. We need to go? Now. They slipped out the back exit just as a black SUV rolled past the front entrance. Thomas pulled her behind a dumpster, and they crouched there, holding their breath as 2 men in suits entered the bank. He's covering his trail, Thomas whispered. He's cleaning up everything she left behind. Ellie pressed her forehead against the cold metal, her thoughts racing. Then the journals, all that's left. And the drive, he added. Between the two, it's enough to ruin him, if we survive long enough to show it. They drove to a motel outside Ashford, a forgotten place with flickering neon and water-stained walls. Inside, Thomas set up an old laptop, inserted the flash drive, and started decrypting files. Ellie sat on the bed, staring at the rain running down the window, every sound outside making her flinch. She must have been so scared, she said softly. Thomas didn't look up. Your mother was brave. She tried to protect you. By keeping me ignorant, Ellie said bitterly. She thought lies were love. Thomas turned toward her. Sometimes lies are armor. Before Ellie could answer, a loud knock made them both freeze. 3 sharp raps. Then silence. Thomas motioned for her to stay quiet, grabbed the gun from his bag, and moved toward the door. He opened it a fraction, and a young woman burst in, dripping wet, gasping for breath. Don't shoot. Please. My name's Lily Granger. My father's missing, and you're the only ones he said might help. Ellie stared at her. You're his daughter? The woman nodded, shaking, eyes wide with terror. They took him. 2 men, same ones who came to your house last week. He told me to find you if anything happened. Ellie and Thomas exchanged a glance. Whatever game Graves was playing, it was bigger than either of them realized. Then we don't have much time, Thomas said grimly. If they took your father, they'll come for us next. Lightning flashed through the window, and in that split second Ellie saw the reflection of headlights pulling into the parking lot. Too late, she whispered, reaching for the journal. They already found us. Rain hammered the motel roof like 1,000 fists as Ellie grabbed Lily's arm and dragged her toward the bathroom, the only room without windows. Thomas killed the lights, flattened himself against the wall, and peered through the slit in the curtain. 2 men stepped out of the black SUV, same suits, same dead eyes, and they moved with the confidence of people who expected everyone inside to be too afraid to resist. Ellie could barely breathe. Lily was shaking so violently Ellie thought the girl might pass out, so she pressed a hand firmly over Lily's mouth, begging her with her eyes to stay quiet. Thomas loaded his gun with a soft metallic click, the sound swallowed by thunder. We can't fight them, Ellie whispered. They'll have backup. Thomas shook his head. If we run, they'll hunt us forever. We need something they can't ignore. Something loud. Before Ellie could ask what that meant, the doorknob rattled. Once, then harder. FBI, open up, a low voice called. Thomas laughed under his breath, humorless. We both know that's a lie. The lock snapped. The door blasted inward. Thomas fired once toward the ceiling sprinkler, shattering it, and ice-cold water erupted across the room. The attackers stumbled, blinded by the sudden spray, and Thomas shoved Ellie and Lily out the bathroom window into the storm. Ellie hit the ground hard, palms scraping gravel, but she pushed to her feet. Thomas slid out next, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. We split up, he yelled over the storm. Meet at the radio station in Ashford. If I don't show, you will. Ellie snapped, refusing to hear the rest, but Thomas grabbed her shoulders. If I don't, you take the journal and the flash drive and you burn Graves to the ground. He shoved both into her hands. A gunshot cracked from inside the motel. Thomas flinched. Go? Ellie ran, dragging Lily with her, feet slipping in mud as headlights flared behind them and voices shouted. They sprinted into the woods, vines tearing at their clothes, branches clawing their arms, until they reached an old drainage tunnel. Lily hesitated, staring into the dark hole. But Ellie didn't slow. She crawled in first, stomach pressed to cold concrete, and Lily followed. Water splashed around their knees as they crouched inside, hidden by darkness. The voices grew nearer, flashlights slicing through the rain. "Search the trees," one man shouted. They couldn't have gotten far. Ellie covered Lily's mouth again as a beam of light passed directly over the tunnel entrance, but it didn't stop. 10 agonizing minutes passed before the voices faded. Ellie exhaled shakily. "We keep moving." They emerged 2 blocks from the highway, drenched and freezing. A semi-truck slowed when Ellie waved frantically. The driver rolled down his window, a grizzled man with kind eyes. "Jesus, you girls look like you crawled out of the river. Need a lift?" Ellie nodded, forcing a smile she didn't feel. "Ashford, please." He helped them into the cab and blasted the heat. Lily curled into herself, fighting tears. "Why would they take my dad?" Ellie swallowed hard. "Because he knew something. Same reason they killed my mother." Lily's voice cracked. "So we just run?" Ellie shook her head. "We finish what they started." She opened the journal, turning to the last page, one her mother had written only days before her death. "If I don't make it, the secrets will rot this town from the inside. Don't let graves bury the truth." Ellie pressed her trembling fingers to the ink, feeling her mother's presence in every stroke of handwriting. She didn't know if she was brave, but tonight there was no choice. When they reached the outskirts of Ashford, the driver let them out behind a diner. Ellie thanked him, then helped Lily inside to dry off. The radio station was only a mile away. They walked, hoods up, watching every passing car. The building was small, isolated, and dark. The night host worked alone, perfect for airing something dangerous. Ellie knocked on the side door. A young DJ with headphones and tired eyes opened it, confusion melting into shock when he saw their condition. "Are you okay?" Ellie didn't waste time. "We have evidence of corruption, murder, and bank fraud involving Sheriff Graves. We need airtime. Right now." The DJ paled. "That's serious." Ellie held up the journal and flash drive. "And it's real." He hesitated only a moment before stepping aside. "Come in." They entered the studio, the hum of equipment filling the room. The DJ plugged in the drive, eyes widening as financial records scrolled across the screen. Missing funds, offshore accounts, signatures. If this gets out, the whole county will explode," he whispered. "Then hit broadcast," Ellie said. Her voice didn't even shake. But before the DJ could touch the controls, the glass window shattered. Ellie screamed as men in black rushed inside. The DJ dropped. Lily stumbled backward. Ellie grabbed the journal and ran through the back hallway, adrenaline burning through her veins, but a hand caught her from behind, wrenching her to the ground. A cold voice whispered in her ear. "You should have left the past buried." Sheriff Graves. He smelled of cologne and arrogance. Ellie thrashed, kicking, clawing, but he slammed her against the floor. "Your mother was a fool. Granger too. You think you'll do better?" He raised his gun. Ellie's vision blurred. She thought of her mother's handwriting, of Thomas buying them time, of Lily waiting for an answer. She closed her eyes, and a gunshot exploded from behind them. Graves collapsed. Ellie blinked. Lily stood in the doorway, hands shaking, holding Thomas's gun. Ellie didn't know when the girl had found it, but she didn't hesitate now. "Get up," Lily sobbed. "We have to finish." Ellie pushed to her feet, grabbed the fallen sheriff's badge, and slammed the broadcast button. Sirens wailed outside already. Someone had heard the gunshots. The studio lights flickered, alarms blared, but Ellie leaned into the microphone, voice steady at last. "My name is Ellie Lawson. My mother was murdered to cover up a decades-long corruption ring run by Sheriff Daniel Graves. And tonight, we're showing you everything." The studio erupted into chaos the moment Ellie's voice hit the airwaves. Sirens screamed outside. Phones rang nonstop on the DJ's desk, and the broadcast board lit up like a Christmas tree as the entire county tried to call in, confirm, deny, panic, anything. Ellie kept speaking, her voice shaking but unbroken, reading her mother's notes word for word. Dates, account numbers, names of officials who took bribes, doctors who falsified reports, the exact description of the night her mother's best friend, Marissa, was killed in what the sheriff had called a car accident. Lily stood beside her, eyes red, clutching the gun with both hands, staring at the door as if expecting Graves to rise from the dead. Outside, tires screeched. More vehicles arrived. Some police, some unmarked. Ellie could hear men yelling, demanding entry, but the DJ had slammed the security gate shut and barricaded the hallway with equipment racks. "They'll cut the power," he warned, fingers flying over controls. "We don't have long." Ellie forced herself to keep going, flipping pages with trembling fingers. Sheriff Graves targeted anyone who tried to expose him. My mother, Karen Lawson, collected evidence for years. When she confronted him, he had her killed and staged it as a heart attack. Her voice cracked, but she pushed on. She trusted the wrong people, but she wrote down everything. And now every one of you can hear it. Outside the shattered window, flashlights bobbed through the darkness. A loudspeaker blared. "Turn off the broadcast and step outside with your hands up." The DJ snorted. If they thought that would work, they'd be in here already. He switched frequencies, broadcasting not just locally but to nearby towns. Ellie read faster, her throat raw, while alarms flashed red across every monitor. 2 officers suddenly appeared in the main hallway, guns drawn. Lily gasped, stepping in front of Ellie like a shield, but the DJ hit a button and a heavy metal door slammed down, trapping the officers outside. "That'll hold them. Maybe a minute," he said. Ellie continued. Sheriff Graves used forged wills, fake debt collectors, bribed judges. He stole land, farms, inheritances. If someone resisted, they disappeared or accidents happened. My mother's friend Marissa threatened to go to the FBI. She never even made it home. Outside the barricade, something exploded, maybe tear gas, maybe a door charge. The DJ cursed. "They're going to cut the power manually." Ellie flipped to the final pages of the journal, the newest handwriting, shaky, rushed, terrified. "If you're reading this, it means they got to me. They will come for you next. But don't let them. Don't let him bury the truth." Ellie's voice broke fully, tears spilling down her face, but she forced every word out. "Please forgive me for leaving you alone. I tried." The power suddenly flickered. Darkness swallowed the room. The computers hummed on backup batteries, but the board sputtered. Ellie kept talking anyway, her voice filling the quiet like a flare in the dark. The metal security door shuddered as men slammed against it. Lily cried out when sparks flew from the wiring overhead. "They're cutting everything," the DJ said. "We have 30 seconds, maybe less." Ellie leaned into the mic one last time. "Sheriff Daniel Graves is responsible for murder, theft, fraud, and obstruction of justice. I'm turning myself into federal authorities tonight, along with my mother's journal and the complete digital records. If anything happens to me or to Lily Powers, it won't be an accident." A deafening bang shook the station, an explosive charge. Ellie grabbed Lily and pulled her toward the back exit as the metal door buckled. The broadcast board went black. The last thing transmitted was Ellie's voice saying, "We are not afraid of you anymore." The power died. Total silence, except for the storm. The back hallway door burst open and Thomas stumbled inside, drenched, bleeding from his forehead, but alive. Lily screamed his name and threw herself into his arms. "We have to go," he panted. State police and FBI heard the transmission. "They're already on the way. But Graves' people want us dead before they get here." Ellie didn't stop to ask questions. They ran. Out the emergency exit, into the rain-soaked parking lot as more black-clad men swarmed the building. Thomas led them to an abandoned pickup hidden behind a dumpster. "Get in." Ellie shoved Lily into the passenger seat and climbed in as Thomas hot-wired the engine. Bullets shattered pavement behind them. The truck fishtailed onto the road, tires screaming as Thomas sped toward the highway. Police cruisers and SUVs appeared behind them, chasing with headlights like hunting knives. Ellie clutched the journal to her chest, praying the broadcast had been enough, that someone out there had heard. The road curved sharply along a cliffside, rain turning the asphalt into glass. A cruiser rammed the back bumper, and the truck almost spun out, but Thomas kept control. "Don't let go," he told Ellie without looking. She realized he wasn't talking about the wheel. He meant the truth. The past. The fight. Ellie squeezed the journal so hard her fingers went numb. Sirens roared behind them, but through the sheet of rain, Ellie saw flashing lights ahead, blue and red, state troopers blocking the road. The corrupt officers behind them slammed brakes, suddenly unsure. Thomas skidded to a stop. Guns were raised on both sides. Time froze. Rain suspended midair like shattered glass. Ellie stepped out slowly, journal in one hand, Lily's shaking fingers clutched in the other. She lifted the book over her head and shouted, "This is evidence. We're surrendering. Someone take it." And for the first time since her mother died, Ellie felt something impossible: hope. Blue and red lights painted the highway in violent flashes as officers shouted commands, guns drawn, rain pouring so hard it drowned half the sound. Ellie stood in the headlights, soaked, shaking, clutching the journal high like a torch in a storm. For a terrifying second, no one moved. Every cop, every trooper, every shadowed figure from Graves' crew frozen in a standoff where a single trigger pull could end everything. Then a voice cut through the chaos. "Lower your weapons. That girl is a witness." An FBI agent pushed forward, badge raised, eyes sharp and assessing. Two troopers moved in, grabbing Thomas and Lily gently, not like suspects, but like survivors. Ellie sank to her knees, adrenaline crashing so hard she thought she might vomit. The journal was carefully taken from her hands, sealed into an evidence bag, and the flash drive followed. "You just blew open the biggest corruption case in the county's history," the agent told her. "You're safe now." But Ellie didn't feel safe. Not yet. Because the men who had chased them, the ones loyal to Graves, were still behind the barricade of police cruisers, guns hesitating in the rain. One of them bolted, sprinting for the woods. Another fired a desperate shot into the air before he was tackled. The system Graves owned was cracking apart right there on the asphalt. Hours blurred into interviews, ambulances, statements, evidence collection, flashing cameras, sheriff's deputies in handcuffs. Ellie watched Graves' most loyal captain get shoved into the back of a patrol car, still screaming that the county would fall without Graves. Ellie only stared at him, hollow, because the county hadn't fallen. It had finally woken up. Lily sat wrapped in a blanket on the bumper of an ambulance, sobbing into Thomas's chest while paramedics patched his forehead. Reporters swarmed, microphones thrust forward, asking who Ellie was, how she got the journal, why she risked her life to expose the truth. Ellie didn't answer. She just whispered, "My mother tried to save us. I only finished what she started." By dawn, the rain had stopped and the highway glowed with gold light. Ellie hadn't slept. She sat on the tailgate of a cruiser, staring at the journal, now sealed and tagged as evidence. It felt strange seeing it behind plastic, like a part of her mother was being taken away again. The FBI agent sat beside her. "Your mother was brave. She didn't die for nothing." Ellie swallowed hard. "For a long time I thought she just gave up, like she let the world crush her." Her voice trembled, but she was fighting even when no one believed her. The agent nodded. "Now her story will be heard. In court. On record. Public." Ellie let out a long, unsteady breath. "What happens to Lily and Thomas?" "They'll be protected. Thomas will testify. He's key to this. Lily will be placed with extended family until custody is sorted. You blew the case open, Ellie. The system doesn't get to bury you anymore." A paramedic approached. "She needs stitches and rest." Ellie refused the stretcher. She could still stand, still breathe, still finish what her mother began. At the hospital, she signed statements, gave fingerprints, repeated every detail until her throat hurt. Thomas slept sitting upright in a chair. Lily curled beneath a blanket, clutching Ellie's hand even in her dreams. When the news finally hit the morning broadcast, the entire county exploded. Headlines: corruption ring exposed. Sheriff dead. Years of cover UPS revealed. Whistleblower's daughter brings evidence. Commentators called Ellie a hero. Neighbors called her brave. But Ellie didn't feel heroic. She felt bruised, exhausted, hollowed out. It wasn't victory, just survival. The funeral for her mother had been quiet and lonely. Now the whole county suddenly pretended to care. Ellie sat outside the hospital, wrapped in a borrowed jacket, watching the sunrise creep over the parking lot. Thomas walked out, slower, older somehow. "You did it," he said. Ellie shook her head. "We did it." He hesitated. "I never apologized for not telling you everything earlier." Ellie looked up at him. "My mother trusted you. So do I." Thomas smiled, small, tired, real. Weeks later, investigations spread across the state. Judges, deputies, businessmen. Half the county's power structure fell like dominoes. Lily's father was rescued from a hidden holding site, alive but scarred. He hugged Ellie like she was the one who saved him personally. Ellie kept the journal after trial. pages sealed to preserve fingerprints, but one loose sheet, her mother's final letter, remained framed on Ellie's wall. Truth outlives fear. If my voice is taken, let yours be louder. Ellie didn't go back to her old life. She stayed in Ashford, working with investigators, helping victims reclaim stolen land and inheritances. People who once whispered about her now thanked her. Some cried, some apologized. And every time Ellie passed the sheriff's office, now empty, stripped, silent, she felt the ghost of her mother walking beside her. Not broken, not defeated, just finally heard. On the one-year anniversary of her mother's death, Ellie stood at her grave with Lily and Thomas beside her. Ellie placed one hand on the headstone and whispered, "It's over." But in her chest, she knew the truth. Her mother hadn't left a daughter behind. She'd left a fighter. And the county would never be the same again.